Look, when some people say they can handle horror movies, they might be talking about jump scares, creepy clowns, or some gnarly kills from zombies. These are four disturbing and disgusting horror movies you might not have seen. And if you have a weak stomach, you might want to turn it off because these are not for the faint of heart. It's your boy Bobby at Watch Real Flicks, and let's get into it. All right, let's dig in. Literally, Feed, directed by Brett Leonard, is one of those movies you won't easily forget, whether that's a good thing or not. Depends on your stomach and your tolerance for psychological mind games wrapped in a greasy, twisted package.
I want to be 1,000 pounds!
Oh yeah? We'll say it again!
All right, so we have Michael Carter, an Australian detective who specializes in cybercrime, busting weirdos on the internet. He is super intense. He's like that one friend that takes everything way too serious and never seems to sleep. Patrick is an American tech-savvy creep with the weirdest hobby ever, running a fetish website where he literally feeds women to the brink of death. And no, I'm not talking about, oh, here's a slice of cake, sweetie. I'm talking about gallons of mayo, mountains of burgers. It's like watching a demonic episode of Man vs. Food. Patrick is living his best life, acting like some sort of twisted philosopher, saying shit like, you know what? Who decides what is beautiful? Dude, you're literally killing someone with deep fried lasagna. Anyway, Michael's disgusted and ready to bring Patrick down, but things get complicated fast. Patrick has this eerie charm and ability to mess with Michael's mind, turning this into a really intense game of cat and mouse. Michael's investigating turns obsessive as Patrick keeps messing with his mind with cryptic messages and moral questions like, what makes me a monster? Society? Or your twisted sense of justice. Meanwhile, Michael is juggling his own issues back home. He has a girlfriend who's fed up with his workaholic tendencies, and honestly, I don't blame her. Dude's out here fighting internet predators while his personal life is crumbling. But forget all that because we're here for the showdown between him and Patrick. And oh boy, this shit gets wild. You've got these intense standoffs, gross feeding rituals, and a climax that leaves you going, wait. What the hell just happened? The story tries to tackle some deep themes about beauty standards and how technology warps human desires. It's like the movie saying, yeah, the internet is scary and full of weirdos. And honestly, it's all facts. So despite all the heavy-handed moments, the story stays engaging because it's just so weird. You've got shocking twists, grossed out moments, and that creepy sense of dread that keeps you glued to the screen. It's a story that knows it's messed up and dares you to keep watching. Whether you survive the full meal or not, that's up to you. Let's talk about Goodbye Uncle Tom. This one is a roller coaster of emotions, controversy, and straight up discomfort. Buckle up because this film does not hold back. It dives into the darkest chapters of history, bringing you right along with it. On the surface, this is a mockumentary about the transatlantic slave trade. They recreate the events in such a detailed and unfiltered way, you'll probably find yourself asking, wait, how did they even film this? I mean, it's like the director straight up dare you to sit through this one. One horrifying scene after another is like, yeah, we're going there. And way over there. The movie starts with modern day filmmakers somehow time traveling back to the 1800s. They show up in the Deep South ready to give us an objective look at the horrors of slavery. Spoiler alert. There's nothing objective about what happens next. We get plantation owners acting like straight up cartoon villains, think overly polite but with twisted dark motivations, while enslaved people are being dehumanized at every turn. It's not just the whippings and the auctions, though those are very graphic and deeply disturbing. It's the sheer in-your-face absurdity of these directors and how they present everything. At one point, we're introduced to the whole disgusting system. where babies are bred like livestock. Let me tell you, your stomach is going to drop faster than a roller coaster at that scene. And then there's the scene with the journalist interviewing enslaved people like they're doing a casual Q&A. The questions are so condescending and ignorant. It's like watching a really bad improv skit from hell. You'll literally be yelling at the screen, who thought this shit was okay? So yeah, the story of Goodbye Uncle Tom is less a coherent narrative and more of a series of gut punches that is meant to shock you into feeling something. It's an exploitation movie disguised as education, and boy does this shit get under your skin. But hey, if you're looking for a movie that is disturbing and will take you through cinematic hell, this is it. Just don't forget to breathe.
Here comes another one who's tired of being a grumpy boy.
All right, let's break down the story of the cement garden in a way that doesn't make you want to call your therapist halfway through. It is like one of those what the hell did I just watch type of movies, but in a strange, captivating way. It's like a weird dream that you can't shake off the next morning. So we get a family in the middle of nowhere. Mom, dad, and their 4 kids. Now let me tell you, this dad is something else. The man's obsessed with making sure his backyard is fully paved over with cement for reasons I still don't understand, but hey, priorities, right? Meanwhile, the mom's not doing too hot, and just like that, bam, we've got 2 dead parents within the first act. Yeah, this movie moves fast on the trauma front. Here's where things go from sad to hold up. What are they doing? The oldest siblings, Julie and Jack, decide they can't let anyone know that their parents are dead because, you know, foster care horror stories and all of that. So what do they decide to do? They decide to put their mom's body in a trunk and cover it with cement. The same cement that their dad was obsessed with. I guess after all, he had a point, huh? At this point, the movie turns into a bizarre mix of survival tactics. You think that they try to keep a low profile, but nope. Jack spirals into this gross, sweaty phase where he just stops taking a bath. Meanwhile, Julie is stepping into a maternal yet flirtatious role that just gives the whole situation a vibe straight out of a fever dream. Then there's the 2 younger siblings, Sue, who's quiet and spends most of her time writing weird stuff in a journal, and Tom, who's going through a bit of a gender identity exploration. The weirdest part, despite all the chaos, these kids somehow convince themselves that they've got everything under control. Spoiler alert, they don't. Things escalate in a way that makes you feel like you're watching a car crash in slow motion. There's an uncomfortable tension brewing between Julie and Jack that makes you want to scream, get some therapy. But of course, this is the 70s and therapy isn't exactly on their radar. Look, it's a wild story, and while it definitely dips into taboo territory, it also taps into something deeply human. These kids are dealing with abandonment, fear, and a warped sense of family. They're trying to hold on to any sense of normalcy in a world that's falling apart, something most of us, hopefully in a less creepy way, can relate to. Some films scare you with monsters. Others haunt you with essential dread. Cutting Moments, directed by Douglas Buck, does both in a brutal and unforgettable 25-minute dive into suburban horror that'll leave you feeling like you need a shower or maybe even a therapist. Fair warning, this isn't a film you enjoy. It's one you survive. The story starts out quiet and almost boring. Sarah is a housewife trapped in a suffocating suburban nightmare with her husband, Patrick. On the surface, everything seems postcard perfect. The lawn is mowed, the house is spotless, and nobody's visibly screaming at each other. But something is deeply wrong. There's a chilling emptiness in every interaction between Sarah and Patrick, and you can tell she's been emotionally starving for a long time. And here's where shit starts to spiral out of control. Feeling invincible and unwanted, Sarah decides to take drastic measures in getting her husband's attention. Drastic as in, you might need a trash can nearby. She gives herself a gruesome makeover in one of the most infamous sequences in horror history. Think of this as self-care, but from hell, and she is not reaching for lipstick and a nice dress. Her tools of choice are sharp and bloody. Now you might be thinking, I know Patrick is about to snap out of this emotional coma after this, right? Well, yes, but not in a way that you might hope for. Instead of rushing Sarah to the hospital, he has a terrifying moment of realization. For the first time in the film, he actually sees her. There's this eerie calm as he silently accepts the violence that's unfolding, almost like it's the logical next step in their broken world. Look, cutting moments isn't exactly movie night refrain material. Unless your friends are hardcore horror junkies that have seen it all, this film hurts to watch, emotionally and physically. This movie digs deep into uncomfortable territory. This movie is a sharp shock to the system. It's a deeply uncomfortable exploration of trauma, isolation, and the violence that can fester in the spaces between people. It's not for the faint of heart, but for those who can handle its brutal honesty. It's a masterclass in psychological horror. And there you have it. So if you love horror movies as much as I do, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring that bell for more creepy content.